I've been wanting to do a new video for a while, but I haven't because my dad died. I don't remember the last time I did a video, and I think it was when I came back to California. I thought I would just come and spend the summer with family, and I wanted to close out my office at Michelle's place so I could save the money on rent. After so many months on the road, I knew that this is what I want to continue doing, and I didn't need to pay that extra rent for an office I'm not using. And that was why I came back, and I thought I could spend some time at the beach, which I did a few times. When I got down to Ramona and I took Kismet. Kismet turned a year old, and I had visited my parents for Father's Day. I saw my dad, and I was still in town, like, I think it was July 1st. My uncle and my aunt and my cousin came out, and I joined them for a little lunch and picnic. My dad was really not completely present there. He ate and stuff, but he couldn't engage in conversation. And it was really hot that day. The caregivers told us, you guys should really bring these old people back inside. It's too hot for them to be in that much heat. I walked back with my dad, and he was using his walker, and it looked like he was going to collapse. He was even thinking I should go get him a wheelchair. He had to stop and rest a few times. That was really our last full-blown interaction. I still stayed in town a little bit in Temecula, and then I went over to Ramona, which is an hour and a half away, thinking it was closer to the beach and it was going to be cooler, but it wasn't. But while I was there was a really bad energy there. It was an odd experience. I was planning to stay a whole month there. I lasted 2 weeks. There was like issues with the dog, and right now it seems so unimportant, but it was really mostly what I sensed was God was telling me, go back to work closer to your parents. So I went back to, after 2 weeks, I had gotten calls. Dad had some falls, like 7 falls in one night. Every time he got out of the bed to go to the bathroom, he was falling. Then I get a call from the hospice agency that he's really declining. They wanted to get a comfort care kit and order him a hospital bed. I went back, and a couple of weeks later, he was gone. The night that he died, my son was with me and my mom. It was an experience that you're anticipating that this is going to occur, but you don't think about all the steps that you need to do, like calling hospice to say he died and then waiting for the mortuary to show up to pick up his body. I'm grateful that I had some really sweet moments with my dad during those 2 weeks. I went as often as I could to just sit there and check on mom and be there for dad. He needed help getting his medication and oxygen because mom wasn't completely there, for obvious reasons, in denial that he was actually going to be leaving us. She just kept anticipating he was going to get better and sit up on the couch and watch TV again, and it wasn't happening. You never really know how you're going to respond or react when a loved one dies. My 2 brothers who have died previously, those were tragic deaths. They were my brothers. My dad, I had a different relationship with. He's my father, and it wasn't tragic. He lived a very long life. He was 85 and closer to 86 because December would be his birthday. He lived a long life. He died of natural causes, but it's very sad and profound, but it didn't end there. Obviously, once he died, then we have to plan the memorial service. I did the eulogy, which was very well received, and it was totally from my heart. Probably, honestly, the most important public speech I've ever given, because it was about my father. And on my workshops, I used stories of how my dad guided me and mentored me when I was younger, and was my business partner for 40 years. 40 years. Anyway, so I came back to California. Spirit guided me that I needed to be in California for the summer and round out my travels back home, checking in with family, doing family activities. I was not anticipating that my father was going to die when I came back, but that's why I came back. And then I committed to stay in another month just to settle business affairs, and it got even out of control because financially it made more sense to move my mom into a smaller room. And although it was sad, I needed to do that just because still paying half of her rent. And one of the reasons why I'm doing the trailer life, but I'm paying an exorbitant amount to stay in a campground at the time. So I knew I couldn't stay for much longer. But even after the memorial service, right after we got her home on Friday and on Saturday, she's reporting she's seeing bed bugs. And that's been a month of trying to deal and contend with that. I will say my son, from the moment I arrived back in California, all through the time with my dad while he was dying, and then my dad's death, and then getting through the memorial service, and then this fiasco with the moving of mom and the bed bugs, my son has not let me down. And that is a true blessing in our relationship. So I'm grateful for that. So I'm now back in Mesa. I got here yesterday. I spent another month in Temecula, and I made sure to stay by my family for my 60th birthday. Yes, right now I just turned 60, and it has been exactly 1 year that I have been living and working remotely as a nomad in my 25-foot travel trailer, pulling with my 2014 F-150. 1 year exactly. And the spot that we're in is the same campground that I started at, Usery Mountain Regional Park in Mesa, Arizona. And I actually booked the exact same spot, number 22. And Kismet arrived 1 week after I arrived here. So here we are, exactly 1 year later, in the same place we started at. And now I'm beginning chapter 2. I'm out here to do my grieving for my dad appropriately, but also I wanted to be close by my friend because I could use some distractions and some things to look forward to and activities, and she's game. I don't know what is in store for me for the next few months or this next year of travel. I'm going to stay here for a couple of months. Why? Because I'm not really interested in going 100% solo right now while I'm grieving my dad. I want to be with somebody, but not somebody who also needs grief support. Knowing my relationship with my mother, I couldn't be her grief support and she couldn't be mine. I'm better off keeping a bit of distance between us and just chatting on the phone. I saw her as often as I could, and even the morning after my 60th birthday, I went out and had breakfast with her and got her settled, feeling confident that the bedbug situation and her move has been complete. My son had assured me, do not worry about it. We've been tag teaming on these responsibilities. I had to drive her up to, we had cremated, and I had to drive mom up to Victorville from Hemet, which is about an hour and a half, to go pick up the ashes of my dad in the urn. And was much more emotional than I had anticipated it. And I wasn't sure if it was going to occur before I left. And so I'd asked my son if he would do the task. He was the one who walked with my mom, with my dad's body out to the mortuary van. And I couldn't. I just couldn't. So I watched from afar. But it was my task to bring dad back. So now his urn sits in a very prominent place in her new room on the windowsill, surrounded by some plants. And she's going to get a picture and put it there. When all was said and done, my son was like, go start he kept saying, go on your trip. But I got on his case with that. It's like, I'm not on a trip. I don't live here. I live in my trailer. And I have some things I want to go accomplish. And I need to save some more money because this place is expensive. And out in Arizona, the weather will be mild in a few months and I'll be able to boondock again and save rent. So here I am at the beginning of chapter 2 of the sequel. I do have some general ideas of what I want to do. Sedona for sure, but something different. I don't need to go to Sedona to do the touristy things. And Lene will go with me, and I'm thinking maybe hikes or something, but off the beaten path. I don't want to do the busy ones. It's too crazy, but there's that. I wanted to go to some music festivals. I want to go eat good food. I want to do some more museums and do some more exploring and just have some activities a couple days a week. I want to train my dog, but the main thing I want to do is work on my novel. A few months ago, I had taken a course, an extension course with UCLA for novel writing, and kind of dug up my novel Dead Air, which really I started writing when my heart crisis happened. So like 17 years ago. And I've dusted it off a handful of times and started again. Even prior to COVID, I did. And then I sat there for a while. I was taking care of my parents as I'm writing this book. And then as my dad died, come to the realization that's how I'm going to honor my dad in my grief, is working on the novel. Because honestly, the novel was inspired by my work with my dad. It has nothing to do with me and my dad. It's not a story of Kelly and Ken. It's a fiction story, but it was things that we talked about while we were doing radio station inspections for all those years for FCC compliance. And I know I haven't really talked much about that, but I will be. And so I took this course, and then I found somebody to be an accountability partner and idea sharer and resource sharer. And we've talked a few times, and I'm anxious to get back to writing the book, but now with a different purpose in mind, because this is my dad's. I'm going to dedicate it to my dad's legacy because he gave me the ending and he confirmed some of the technological aspects of what I'm writing about. And I'll share more, obviously, but that's going to be part of my grief process. I'm not just going to cry and whine and be sad. My dad had a good life and I've missed him for a while. Honestly, it's probably been 8 or 10 years since my dad has been my dad. He started to decline with the Parkinson's years ago. I thought it was just basically depression after his heart surgery, which is probably true. But the Parkinson's also caused his mind to not be able to process things. And so we stopped working together years ago. And maybe over the course of the last 5 years, he's gone on 5 inspections with me, really. The Parkinson's caused him to not be able to walk a transmitter site anymore, and it would wear him out too much. It's been a long goodbye with my dad, but now the time has come for me just to grieve him. And so I decided I'm a grief counselor. As a psychotherapist, I'm also certified as a grief counselor. So it's not that I'm not going to grieve because I'm a grief counselor. No, it's like I'm going to grieve appropriately because I know the tools I need to employ. I cry in private. I do when I have these grief bursts like I'm having right now. And they occur, but I'm not going to spray it all over people. I have a therapist that I meet with once a month. I have my journals that I can write down my sadness. And I have my book to keep me focused and distracted. And that's what I'm starting this chapter 2 of the sequel of Kelly Orchard. Now, I'm going to do some healing practices, sound healing, Reiki, whatever, so that my body can heal from the stress and the emotions also. Because remember, our body keeps score. And so when you have trauma or grief, it gets into the cells, which are what keep you going. And so it's just as much as working on the emotions as it is working on your body. So getting back into hiking, I've taken a break from it for a while. I don't even really, for numerous reasons. Number one, he got so big that he was just hugging me, and I got the right collar now that works for him. So it's much more pleasant to walk with him. But then with my dad dying, I wasn't all that focused on hiking. So it's been a while. But we're going to get back into that. We're in the right place for it. At Usery Mountain, there's tons of hiking trails. I'd be out there today, but the drive yesterday, getting here and setting up camp and all this new stuff, I'm like, okay, I'll start maybe tomorrow. I'm excited for what's to come. The world is still a very crazy, awful place as far as politics, economy, battle of good and evil. I'm going to be not so focused on business as much as I am on my spiritual quest and journey and my faith and how I can help others too. But I really want to write this book, and I have books to read and things to learn. And so I will be busy And so it's going to be a whole new thing because the first year was about my life review. Now it's going to be about what am I going to do about it? I can leave it all behind and I could start anew doing what I really love on this last third of my life. I'm 60 now and I'm not ashamed of it. I hated what my life represented and I feel like I have nothing to show for it. But that isn't entirely true. You have to wait for God to reveal to you your path if you're seeking it. Otherwise, you're just like swimming in the ocean or sailing in the ocean with no direction. And I don't think I've been swimming in the ocean with no direction. And I don't think that I'm being punished for bad behavior. And I don't think that I have summoned up bad karma because of a past life or anything like that. I really just think that my soul came here for a purpose and I've been open to it my whole life. One of the most revealing things to me as I was reviewing my journals was how much I prayed. And all of my faith was evident. Even though things were happening, I was still just trusting God. Maybe I was a little less mature. Maybe my thoughts would go off on these maladaptive ideas, which had to do with things that were fed to me as I was growing up. But over the years, I just saw myself mature more. And now I feel like I'm in a position where I let a lot go. I have to. And your trauma doesn't need to be buried, it needs to be healed. So burying your problems isn't the answer, but you need to look at them, address it, do whatever forgiving you need to do. And forgiving doesn't necessarily mean a person that you're forgiving. How about just forgiving yourself for being caught up in it, or forgiving yourself for allowing yourself to feel so badly about it for so long? Forgive yourself for not knowing better. And these are all things that I've done. And I encourage anybody out there in the world to do that. Follow your soul's path. But what is it? You may not know. And I know I didn't. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the wrong direction. Every path has its purpose. When you find yourself on a path that you don't like, change the path. Just hop on over to another road and go. And that's what I've done. I've given up a brick and mortar life for the life of travel, and I'd like to go further out. I wasn't going further out because of my parents. And I don't know why my mindset is different because my dad died and my mom's still here, but I feel like she's got the support that she needs and she doesn't necessarily need my physical presence right now, honestly. And I pray that my mom has a happy rest of her life too, but I know that I can't be there while she grieves my dad. She needs to do that without me because we would probably butt heads and it would prolong the grief and it would make the grief process painful and ugly. My relationship with my dad was solid. And so I've done what I can for her and I will be there to emotionally support her. But from a distance, I'm going to go experience what I want to experience because I'm now 60. And if I've only got 20 or 25 good years left, I'm going to do what I want. So I'm here in Mesa, Arizona, at least for 2 months. And so reports will come in. We're booked for another cattle drive near the end of November. And so we have some horseback riding trips probably planned. Lots of things. So more updates to come on the adventures of Kelly and Kismet as I spend some time grieving my dad. And we'll see what the universe, what God, what my guides, what we have in store for the rest of my soul's journey here on Earth. So over and out until next time. See you later.